Welcome to the EOB podcast, where we talk about the weekend box office and the new openings this week. I'm Ben No, and joining me is Sen Duong. Hey Sen, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so before we jump to the box office, I want to tell you and everyone that we are on the 100th episode. We made it to 100.
Yay.
All right, 100. We made it.
All right.
And I have to say that I think we're better now than when we first started.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, I think we are.
All right. I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, although no one is still listening to it, but which is okay.
Well, that's good, because then
yeah,
they're hearing the good stuff. Every new listener we have are hearing the better us.
All right, let's jump right into the box office. We have 3 new wide releases last weekend. We have the Tom Hanks, Clint Eastwood drama that's based on a true story called Sully. We have When the Bough Breaks. If you're wondering how that word is pronounced, it's bow. We looked it up. When the bow breaks, just before the podcast.
Cough,
and then there is
bow.
Yeah, bow. Yes, and then there is the animation that's kind of based on Robinson Crusoe, the wildlife. And then the Disappointments Room, that Kate Beckinsale horror movie.
/ thriller.
And
you know what? This week's or last weekend's batch of films at least made an impression. Well, a pretty huge impression in terms of Sully than the previous weekend's batch of films.
Right, 2 weekends ago was the Labor Day weekend, the 4 days, holiday, which is usually the lowest in terms of box office grosses of the year. It's just nobody wants to go out to the theaters. I guess they want to rest or get together for some reason, and that's the year has the lowest box office grosses, and we see that with that week's movies. And then now we have the weekend following Labor Day, which typically isn't that much better. But as you said, we have a surprise. Okay, how about you lead us in?
All right, and the surprise that we were talking about is Sully, Clint Eastwood's film about the airplane landing on the Hudson River, starring Tom Hanks. It grossed $35 million over the weekend, which is way better than what we predicted, and probably way better than what people in the industry have predicted. Because Tom Hanks, I think outside of the Dan Brown novels, the adaptations, he hasn't been at the top of the box office for a while, and his films have underperformed. They tend to do like in the 10 to 15 million range, which is kind of lower than typical Tom Hanks films. But Sully kind of brings him back to the top, 35.5 million. That's like his, one of his best, excluding the Dan Brown novels.
Right. And to put that into perspective, we were predicting 12 million opening, and you were a bit higher. You were saying 15. And right. I think it's because, our numbers was based on his previous performances, his previous movies, as you say, they were opening in the 10 to 15 million range. And we thought, hey, this might open similar.
Right. And this has that, that Tom Hanks kind of muted response. Like, it doesn't seem like something that a lot of people were rushing to see. But apparently a lot of people did rush out to see it.
Right. We covered that in the previous podcast, right? We say, okay, this movie is based on that, that landing in the Hudson River, right? And it was very well covered. It was in the news. And we're thinking, what has been said that hasn't been said, in the movies, when people go to watch a movie that they already saw in the news.
Yeah, is there something behind the story that hasn't been reported or that, the general public isn't familiar with? And from watching the trailer, I thought they kind of appeal to that group. Like, there's stuff here that you haven't heard about or haven't seen yet, and there's more behind the story than what's been already reported. So there's something behind this story that they think will interest the general public. And I guess people were pretty interested.
Right. It has a cinema score, which is pretty good. And the reviews were 83% on Rotten Tomatoes. So critics like it, audience liked it, and the movie is rewarded with a huge opening. Yeah,
and this is also Clint Eastwood's second biggest opening behind, American Sniper.
Yeah. The thing is to be said, right? It's probably, we thought when we say Tom Hanks movies hasn't been opening well, but then again, he's teaming up with Clint Eastwood, who is usually pretty dependable.
Yeah, he's dependable, but he's dependable in the sense of his films have been lately. They can open in with 10 million and eventually go on to gross 100 million. They're not like big splashy openings.
Right. As long as we ignore Jersey Boys, that's not on his radar.
Yeah. Right. So big openings, with the exception of American Sniper, isn't a Clint Eastwood type of thing at the box office. But here it is, American Sniper and now Sully. And the same can be said about Tom Cruise in the last decade, probably. Oh, I meant Tom Hanks.
Oh, Tom Hanks. Right. Okay.
Yeah. Got the Toms. Right. Did I get the Toms mixed up?
Yeah, you mixed up the Toms.
Okay, all right. I meant Tom Hanks, not Tom Cruise.
Okay.
So speaking of Tom Cruise, I guess both of them have made a return to glory at the box office.
And amazingly, the budget is only $60 million for this movie, so it's gonna do well for Warner Brothers.
Yeah, yep. And of course, we'll probably see this film mentioned during the award season. Tom Hanks.
Maybe. I doubt it, but who knows?
It could be. Never underestimate Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, Clint Eastwood maybe, but remember, they're trying to make the Oscar not so white, so who knows?
All
right. Moving along to number 2 is another new release over the weekend. It is When the Bough Breaks. It pulled in about 16 million, and it's about where we had it. I said it would probably do 15, and you said 12. But even though it did 15, it's still lower than the previous movies that released, starring the same people with similar themes. A movie that's a thriller, erotic thriller that's targeted toward the African American audience, and and that audience is usually pretty dependable. They rush out to the movies, and it's not unheard of to see these movies open 20 million plus. But this one did 15.
Yeah, and it's still gonna make a huge profit, and these kind of movies will probably do really well on video, and at a budget of just 10 million. You're still going to make a huge profit. But it does show that, hey, the African-American audience is dependable and reliable, but they're not going to go out every year to watch a similarly themed film, like another erotic thriller.
Right. I mean, the previous one was last year, opened around the same weekend as last year, right? It's, I think, The Perfect Guy.
Yeah, The Perfect Guy. And then they also put Idris Elba's thriller before that. What is that one called? Oh yeah, No Good Deed. There's The Perfect Guy and No Good Deed before that.
Okay.
From what I've been reading, they've been lumping these 3 films together.
Okay.
No Good Deed, The Perfect Guy, and When the Bough Breaks. So compared to those two, those 2 films opened to around 24, 25 million. Those 2 films. This one did 15. So even though it's going to make a huge profit and it's going to be considered a decently successful film, people are all kind of disappointed. They're kind of expecting something in the mid 25 million range.
Right. Let me offer an alternative take. I think there's not enough good-looking men in this movie. Before the Perfect Guy, right? It was a love triangle kind of thriller, between 2 men and a woman, right? When the Bough Break is just like Morris Chestnut and 2 women. Okay, I think you need more men, more good-looking guys.
Maybe, who knows? But then there are 2 great-looking women.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's mostly the women going out to watch these movies, not the men, and bringing the guy's friend with them.
That could be.
Look for the next movie to feature a love triangle between 2 men and a woman. I think they'll bring back the box office up.
All right. Okay, we'll see then.
All right.
Speaking of Oscars too white, When the Bough Breaks, I don't think anyone will be nominated in that film because it currently has 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. 0%.
That's pretty rare when a movie is kind of like so disliked.
It's not the only wide release over the weekend with 0%. I think that Kate Beckinsale, The Disappointments Room, is also at 0%.
Oh, an equal opportunity.
So two 0% movies in a week. That's pretty. I wonder if that's the first time where 2 wide releases score 0% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. I mean, it's pretty rare to get 0% because somewhere someone will like it.
Right.
Because, someone got liquored up and, hey, so I decided, I had a good time at this movie.
Yeah.
So, all right. Yeah, so let me see the cinema score for When the Bough Breaks. The cinema score is a B, so which is better than the...
Then 0%, but still below average, though.
Yeah. But still, it's not a C or D or F. So
right.
It's not universally disliked by the critics.
Right.
I mean, by the people who went to see the movies, even though it's all the critics hated it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, moving along to number 3 is Don't Breathe, the thriller horror movie starring Stephen Lang. It held the number 1 spots for 2 weeks in a row previously. Now Sully took the top spot. It pulled in 8.2 million over the weekend. And domestically, it made 66.8 million on a budget only about 10 million.
Yeah, I guess at Labor Day weekend, people went out to watch Leftovers, and then this weekend, the films reverted back to their normal drop-offs, which is in the 40 to 50% range. Last weekend, most films were only dropping off in the 10, 20, 30% range. So it seems like this weekend, films reverted back to their normal drop-off.
Right. And the movie already grossed 66.8 million.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very good number for a horror/thriller movie.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Number 4, Suicide Squad. It pulled in 6.5 million over the weekend. And domestically, it made 307 million. And the worldwide take is 685. Yeah, probably won't make 700 because China, right?
It's still playing around the world. So it'll probably hit 700, but it won't hit 800, for instance.
Oh, okay. We'll keep an eye out because it looks like it's slowing down, but if you say so. We'll have to see if it can do 700.
Well, yeah, because, it's still playing in the U.S. It'll definitely hit 700 just because, in the U.S. alone, it'll probably make another 10 million. And then worldwide, it's still going. It only needs an extra 15 million. And yeah, it'll make over 700 million.
Okay, then disregard what I said and go with, what you say.
Right.
All right. And moving on to number 5 is The Wildlife. That's the animation released by Lionsgate, loosely based on the story of Robinson Crusoe, who's shipwrecked on an island, and somehow there's talking animals on it, and he has to fight pirates with the help of the animals. It pulled in about 3.4 million. It's kind of about where we had it. We said 5, you said it'd probably do 5 or less, and that's what it did.
Right. And with Lionsgate, you never know. They probably got the rights for a couple million to release it, and hey, they might. I mean, it's not a great figure, and the reviews weren't that great either, right? The reviews, 15% on Rotten Tomatoes, so Lionsgate might actually lose money on this. Yeah, because when they bought the rights for Shaun the Sheep, they bought the rights for like 2 million or something, and then they spent I don't know, like 7 million or 5 million or whatever on advertising, and they said their break-even point theatrically was 15 million for Shaun the Sheep, but Shaun the Sheep eventually ended up grossing about 20 million. So with this one, if we use the same formula, I don't think this will get to 20 million because Shaun the Sheep was like one of the best reviewed animated features of the year, and The Wildlife is very far from that, 15%, and looks like it'll drop off really quickly.
Yeah, they'll probably make money back.
Even with video, they might lose money.
The theatrical run is over. It's an animation. But theatrically, they might not make their money back. And The Wildlife is made by a French outfit. Lionsgate, they probably pay a couple million for it, and I'm sure they did the math, and even if they lose money, they're not going to lose that much money. I mean, it could be a write-off for them, tax write-off for them, right? So yeah,
could be, yeah. Although if you're using the Shaun the Sheep, like if they bought the rights for The Wildlife for like, let's say 2 million, and they spent like 5-7 million to market the film, then their break-even point might be 15 million, and this doesn't look like you'll hit 15 million. But at the same time, 7 to 8 million total. Even if they lose money, they'll only lose a couple million. Not a huge loss.
Not a huge loss, and as I said, they'll probably make that back on home video, on streaming sites.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's a long play. Like I say, it's a long play. They'll make it back eventually.
Because the thing with the wildlife is it's not like Shaun the Sheep where there's a following. Shaun the Sheep, kids watch it on cable. There is a home video following, but the wildlife is a original animated feature. So it doesn't have that brand.
Okay. All right. We'll keep an eye on it for in the second week.
Yeah. And because they don't report home video profit, we'll never know.
All right. Moving along to number 6 is Kubo and the Two Strings. It's pulled in 3.2 million over the weekend. It's right now domestic gross is 40.8. The budget is 60, and it looks like you'll probably end up in the 50 to 55 million range, I guess, when its theatrical run is over.
Yeah, maybe 50. Maybe 50. I don't know about 55.
Right. So which makes it one of the lower,
lower grossing films from Laika.
Laika, yeah.
It'll have a chance to reach 50 million, which is not too bad. But hey, a 60 million budget, it's it depends on how it does overseas, like in the Asian markets. Might or might not make its money back if it gets a China release, and and how it does in Japan. In Japan, animated films, there's a huge market for these kind of films. So we'll see.
Okay, right. Moving along to number 7 is Pete's Dragon. It pulled in about 2.9 million over the weekend. Domestic gross is 70 million. Budget is only 65. So not one of these huge Disney live action adaptation, but it did okay.
Yeah, it did okay. The worldwide figure is at 103 so far. It hasn't opened super wide yet, so there's still a ways to go in the foreign market. At 65 million, it can still make a decent sized profit.
Right. Okay, moving along to number 8 is Bad Moms. It pulled in 2.8 million. It crossed the 100 million barrier with a domestic take of 107 after 7 weekends. Then the budget is only 20, so yeah, one of the STX's hits.
Right. The worldwide figure is at 152 million. 44 million overseas is not bad for this kind of film.
Okay, right. And then number 9 is Hell or High Water. It pulled in 2.6 million over the weekend. The movie popped up last weekend, and it's kind of continued to hold on in the top 10 right now. It's the domestic gross is 19 million. It's kind of like a
19.8, so 20 million, which is pretty good.
Yeah, it's an action drama starring Jeff Bridges, Chris Pine, Ben Foster. It's kind of a little known movie that somehow popped up.
Yeah, at a budget of 12 million, this is pretty good. And it's essentially an indie film, and in indie terms, this is a pretty good figure.
Okay, so number 10, Sausage Party. It pulled in 2.3 million over the weekend, and it's nearing the 100 mark with a domestic take of 93 million. The budget, as we know, is only 19 million because they suppressed wages, didn't pay overtime for the animators.
Right. Well, now they can afford to.
Right. Go back.
Yeah.
All right. So how about we move on to the Disappointments Room? It's the other Y release over the weekend, and it opened to number 17.
The number 17 spot
with 1.4 million.
It's going to lose money even at a modest budget of 15 million. It's a Kate Beckinsale horror/thriller, and it seems like there's not enough room in the top 10 for it. It seems like Don't Breathe, sucked in all the horror fans, and there's no room for that. And what's the other horror film debut over the previous week?
Oh, Morgan.
Yeah.
Which nobody.
Yeah. Morgan, another horror/thriller that kind of disappeared.
Well, see, the movie opened to about where we had it. I say 2, you say about 5. So, so around that ballpark, even though I'm closer, yay.
Yeah.
But I guess more importantly is that the Disappointment Room just looks extremely generic. It's not that there's no room for these horror movies. It's just that it doesn't appeal to people.
Yeah.
It's just like one of these generic, there's a room that people can get, and then, and then there's whatever horrors await them once they open the room. And the thing with this movie also is that they didn't really advertise that Kate Beckinsale's in it. It seems like she doesn't want her name associated with the movie.
Right.
Yeah. For obvious reasons, I guess.
Yeah. It seems like it's one of those films where they're contractually obligated by the stars and the cast and crew behind it to release it nationwide. Otherwise, they might have just shelved it or release it direct to video. But yeah, I'm not sure how much Kate Beckinsale wanted to be attached to this film because, it seemed like it might be one of those things where who makes the Underworld films? Is it Relativity too?
Underworld's by Sony.
Oh, okay. Then maybe not. Is Relativity part of Sony?
I'm not quite sure. I have to look that up.
But yeah.
It's possible. It's possible.
Seems like one of those things where, hey, we'll release it while, just to appease him because she's still making Underworld films. If the two companies are related.
Then we'll have to follow up on that. See if they are related. In the next podcast, we'll look that up. We'll do the research.
Right. Oh, they are related, I think. Relativity went bankrupt, and Sony was distributing their films.
Okay, so there is a business tie there.
Yeah. So this might be one of those things where Sony maybe doing Kate Beckinsale a favor so that she would continue to make the Underworld films. Maybe.
I mean, it's already made. I guess they just want to throw it out there to see if there's any interest in it.
Yeah.
To recover some money. Maybe to please the investor saying, hey, we released it and it didn't do well.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it for the top 10, right? Is there any other things that we want to highlight? Like that Morgan thriller that in the second weekend they only pulled in $495K, high drop off of 75%.
Not really.
Okay, all right, then that means it's time to move on to this week's new releases. We have 3. The Blair Witch movie, Bridget Jones's Baby, and Snowden.
Which one of those do you think
is the bigger movie?
Yeah.
I would have to say Bridget Jones's Baby.
Okay, let's start with Bridget Jones' Baby then.
Bridget Jones's Baby. So, it has been about, 16 years since the last Bridget Jones movie. It stars Renee Zellweger, who hasn't been in theaters recently. I think her last movie was Case 39 back in 2010.
Oh, which I remember was a huge stud.
Yeah, it only did 13 million domestic. Yeah. Okay, so she's back with Bridget Jones's Baby. Okay, so this movie has been in development for a long time. For one reason or another, it wasn't made. I mean, I heard about this movie, since way back when. Now it's
finally out,
getting a release. So the first movie opened to 10 million, and it went on to gross 282 million worldwide. The second movie kind of opened similar, 10 million, and has a worldwide gross of 262.
Wow! So good for comedy. Those are huge numbers.
Huge number, but the thing is, it has a decreasing domestic take. It's only helped by the overseas market.
Yeah, well, Bridget Jones's Diary. These novels are popular in the UK. These novels weren't super huge in the US. They were in the UK, and that's probably the territory where it made most of its money. In the US, the drop off has been pretty huge from the first film to the second film. But I bet because of how well it did overseas, the drop off probably wasn't that big, if there's any drop off at all in the UK.
Okay, so how do you think this movie will do? I mean, this is not the
this is not the UK, so
this is not the UK, and this is not the young and cute Renee Zellweger that we used to know. She's definitely older.
Yeah, and it's been a while since she appeared in the film. But the thing is, the drop off in the box office hasn't, it's not her bread and butter. It seems like her bread and butter, the films that she does well in, or as the love interest in romances or romantic comedies. And she's in that category where she was once a top draw, and she made some films that weren't in that category. And it's one of those things where you wonder if she had continued making those films, would she have a bigger draw at the box office? Yeah, I don't know, but Bridget Jones's Baby doesn't seem like it's it's super huge in the US. It's huge overseas, in particular the UK, and it's been a while. It doesn't seem like there's a huge following here. So if the last film opened at 10, I'm thinking this film will probably open in. But the reviews have been really super good, 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is probably better than the previous two films, right? So far. even though there are only 22 reviews. So it looks like this film has been surprising critics who've seen it so far. In addition to Renee Zellweger, there's Colin Firth, who's probably recently a bigger draw than Renee Zellweger, would you say?
Maybe. I mean, Colin Firth is like one of those character actors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I wouldn't say he's that big of a draw, but he's there. You know, kind
of. Yeah,
like
he adds legitimacy to your film. Like you put in a film, and it'll at least it's at least taken seriously by the critics.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't say he sucked. I mean, if the film sucked, you couldn't point to that. He's the problem. He will do his job. It's probably just the material.
Yeah. You put him in a film, it'll lift the legitimacy of your film up a couple notches.
Right.
You put him in a comic book movie like what's that comic book movie that was a surprise?
Kingsman.
Yeah, you put him in a Kingsman, and it adds legitimacy to material that's generally in recent years, because of the Marvel films and the Chris Nolan Batman films, there's already legitimacy, but you add him to it makes it even better.
Right. I mean, we have to remember that people are just running around in costumes.
Right. And there's Patrick Dempsey. But each of them individually on huge draws at the box office.
Right. So Colin Firth is not one of these big box office stars. Mm-hmm. He's there. He, like you say, lend legitimacy to the film. Mm-hmm. He's never a bad addition.
Yeah.
But we're here with Bridget Jones's baby.
Yeah, I have to say 8 million. Even though the reviews are surprisingly great so far.
Okay, I think I'm gonna go with what the movie usually opens to, about 10 million.
Okay.
I think it could be open a bit higher, mm-hmm. because the Bridget Jones's Diary and the Bridget Jones movie in general, I think target the older crowd. Mm-hmm. That's why. The previous movies open to 10 million and it just go on. It has legs because of the it appeals to the older group.
Yeah. These films definitely have legs. And because of the great reviews so far, it might be one of those films that they'll open in the 8 to 10 million range and eventually get up to the 40s and 50 range. But with this, it doesn't seem like it caught on. The first film did 71.2 million, and the second film only did 40 million.
It's not an American movie, and I say it whenever there's accents involved, there is some getting used to. It's kind of like the Peter Pan movies.
Right.
Whenever there's accents featured, I feel that its box office it limits its box office somewhat.
Yeah, from a mainstream audience, but it'll probably do pretty well in the UK.
Yeah, I think domestically it's going to probably end up in the 40-50 million range, when it's said and done.
Okay. Yeah, with great reviews, yeah. All right. I'm thinking 8, you're thinking 10.
Mm-hmm. I think with the potential to open higher, but, who knows?
Yeah, who knows? The reviews are surprisingly good, so who knows? You might be surprised. Just like the critics.
Right.
But like you said, it's not the audience for this film, on the people that they'll rush out to see them. So this could be a very leaky film.
Right. And it looks funny. I guess it appeals to the older audience, with like middle age. Once you hit middle age, you're divorced, you're pregnant, and you have juggling 2 men in your life.
Yeah.
one is an ex, and the other is this new person.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's where the comedy comes into play as well.
Yeah. And like Bad Moms, there aren't many films in the top 10 targeted towards the specifically the women audience.
Yeah, which is why I think Bridget Jones's Baby might open a bit higher. That's why I had my estimate higher, like about 10 million.
Right, and like the African American thrillers, you said that there's not enough good-looking men. You need at least 2 of them. Mm-hmm. Well, Bridget Jones's Baby has 2 of them, so.
Exactly. The movies. I mean, audiences for these movies are mostly women, right?
Right. You have Madrimi, and you have you have Colin Firth, who's intelligent and sophisticated.
Okay, so we have another data point. We'll find out next week.
All right. We'll see if your theory is correct. If this does better than most people are predicting, then your theory has some legitimacy, just like Colin Firth.
Right. Like I said, the other one is like when you send your characters into space. You have nowhere else to go.
Yeah, like the Ice Age movie.
Yeah.
All right, I think we already spoken a bit too much about Bridget Jones's Baby.
All right, how about we move on
to another sequel, Blair Witch.
Is it a sequel or is it one of those reboot / sequel things?
According to the trailer, it's a sequel. It's a legitimate sequel from the original directors and creators of Blair Witch. Because they made a Blair Witch sequel that was just kind of made to cash in on the first film. It wasn't written or directed by the original directors, I don't think. But this one is from the original creators.
Okay, so I'm gonna give some history here, right? The first movie was released in 1999, and it's a found footage movie. It's kind of
started the whole genre.
Technique, right? That's kind of relatively new back then. I mean, there were like shaky cam, first person kind of technique. I mean, this technique was used in previous films before, but it's probably the only movie that's like from beginning to end where, they have people filmed each other from the point of view of the people, talking into, a camera. And it's a horror movie. It was extremely hyped up. I mean, we have in the press, there were like people just too terrified. They were throwing up. They were leaving theaters, etc. With headaches or whatever have you. And it went on to open in the 29 million range, and then for domestic gross of 140 million.
Mm-hmm. One of the most profitable films of all time. Based on its budget.
Yeah, it was probably made for like, I don't know, 1 million or something like that.
No, I think it was made less than that. It was like in the thousands, like super low budget. No one was paid, that type of thing. Like a bunch of people just got together and with their camcorder and, started making this film.
Right. In any case, this movie was hyped. It was helped by the hype.
Yeah.
Of like kind of like the first of its kind, really.
Yeah.
And started the whole found footage genre, which we are still seeing today.
Yeah.
And then they made a sequel, as you said.
And they tanked big time.
To cash in. Right. Called Book of Shadows. Mm-hmm. That one had a 13 million opening and it only managed to do 26 million domestic. So you could see that it had a huge drop off.
Yeah, and there was a kind of love-hate response from the audience on the film. As you said, some people have vomited and got dizzy, but that was more because of the technique, not because of what the marketers of the film said, which is this film is so horrific and, so thrilling, so suspenseful, so edge of your seat. It's like riding a roller coaster type of film. It's not because of that. It's just because the shaky cam made a lot of people dizzy and they threw up because of it. I wasn't a fan of the film. I wasn't a fan of the technique. So I was kind of part of the haters. But, I get that, hey, it's a film with a great concept. It was well marketed. It was groundbreaking, even though I didn't like it. So I think there was a thing, because because of the way it's marketed, people didn't know whether this was real or not. Some people thought it was actually real, that someone actually recorded something and would...
Right. There was that too. It's like, oh, we just happened to find out some tapes that some teenagers made, and we found it, and this is what's on it.
And so a lot of people who went to see it were like, what? Because this was reported on your local news. We were seeing flyers in colleges. So a lot of people went in with huge expectations, and what they saw, the hype didn't match the film, or it didn't match what they were expecting. So there were a lot of haters, and they responded by not going to see the sequel. A lot of them felt like they were, they're like, hey, you fooled me once, you're not going to fool me a second time. So there is that love-hate thing about the first film.
I don't think there was ever love for the movie. I mean, I'm sure there's some people who are fans of the
movie. Yeah, that's
true.
Mean,
because I guess the concept of it, I mean, like they thought that, oh, it might be true.
Yeah.
Right? But not because of that it's really a good movie, I think.
Yeah, there is that too. I'm not sure if there's great love for it. But there were definitely a lot of people who thought it was real, and then they saw it, and then they probably later found out that, hey, it was just a movie, and people were probably turned off by the shaky cam too.
Yeah, I mean, probably not that much because the technique is still here today.
Yeah. What was original and unique about this film was the marketing, was the concept, the idea behind it. Except instead of concentrating on that, they concentrated on the technique, which is what I felt like a lot of people didn't really like. It's kind of like the Saw films. It was the idea and the concept and the twist that was surprising. But then all people caught on to was the torture elements. Because I think those things are easy to catch on to and easy to replicate. But, having an original idea or having an original concept isn't something that's really replicatable. But, shaking the camera is easy to replicate. Showing lots of blood and gore and torture is easy to replicate. So they replicate those elements rather than what actually made these films unique.
Exactly. The first Blair Witch movie was like I said, it was hyped up because it was marketed as kind of real.
Yeah.
It could be real. That's what you say is unique about the movie. It's like it was first of its kind. I don't think a second movie could do it because right now we know and via social media etc. saying it's just a film. But this one was the first of its kind because it wasn't done before. So it's like we discovered these tapes out in the woods.
Yeah. The audience has responded by not watching the sequel, which was made, quickly just to cash in on the first film's success. And I think the sequel wasn't made by the original writers and directors, but Blair Witch, this current one, this from the trailer, it looks like a sequel. Was made by the original writers and directors. So this is a legitimate sequel, not just one that's made quickly.
All right. So, what do you think? How is it going to do?
The reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, 14 reviews so far, 71%. I heard good things from it on my Twitter feed from critics who have seen it in festivals. And this one it didn't annoy me as much because it didn't seem like there's that much shaky cam going on. It seems like it's more based on the concept and the shaky cam. This one could do well. It could, because of the recent resurgence of these, modestly budgeted horror films doing well. I think Blair Witch will end up being one of the successes.
Okay. How successful?
That's a good point. How successful? I'll go 15 million. I'll go 15.
Okay, 15 million. Okay, I was going to give you some time to think about it while I put in, my thoughts. So, as you said, like this one is I think it's kind of a sequel thing, but also I think it is a sequel. I mean, for those who know about the history of the movie, but I think it's also a reboot as well. Since it's been so long since the first and second movie, right? The first movie is this kind of found footage thing. The second movie is kind of like, I believe it. Did they try to make fun of the movie or something like that?
Oh, no, they didn't try to make fun of it. It's just as the second one was more, it was a movie. Like it was more like a very generic horror movie.
All right. So anyway, right? They did not put this, they did not advertise this as the Blair Witch 2 or Blair Witch, with some subtitle. This is just called the Blair Witch. So I think they're just making this for new audiences, for people who didn't see the first two movies.
Or they probably just want people to forget about Blair Witch 2.
Well, in any case, right? It's just for new audience. Saying this is the beginning. Even though it kind of linked with the previous movies. I think they're more advertising this as kind of like a new start.
Right.
We're kind of like rebooting everything. Forget about the second movie, kind of thing.
Right.
Right. It looks better produced, right?
Yep.
In the trailer you can still see that guy saying, "I'm so sorry, right? It was in the first movie as well, where the female character said into the camera, say, I'm so sorry too, as well.
Right, yeah.
So that's why I say that it's kind of a reboot / sequel. I'm gonna go lower on the movie.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with 10.
Yeah, that was my original gut feeling too.
Yeah, because if you take out the branding, it's still a horror movie.
Yeah.
That takes, with teenagers and, there's this creatures out there out to get them.
Yeah. And I wonder how much hate there is still for the original. Even the makers of the sequel, the first Blair Witch sequel, even the cast members, the one cast member said, or he or she knows a lot of people wanted the sequel to fail. Even though it did really well, there were a lot of hate for the...
Yeah, because most of the people got tricked into watching the first movie.
Yeah, well, they felt like they were tricked. They felt like... Now that they spawned a whole genre, found footage genre, and now that all this time had passed, and, when you think back, because I was a hater, but thinking back, it was a great concept, it was unique, it was groundbreaking. Whether or not the final product in terms of the marketing and advertising, whether or not it was a great film, the concept was good.
Yeah. Well, I never really liked the found footage genre in the first place because like people filming themselves doing stuff just doesn't make sense to me. Who filmed themselves?
Yeah. The only film that I like in that genre was Chronicles.
Okay. But I'm just saying in the sense that like who would take a camera and film themselves like through all of the events, right? I mean, if a monster is chasing you, okay, let me take my camera and film it while I run away.
Yeah.
As a concept, it just doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, people liked it. I'm not a fan. Okay, so you 15, me 10, I'll be somewhere in between, I think.
Yeah, we'll have to see. My original gut feeling was 10 too, but since the reviews were surprisingly better than I expected, that's where I'm padding that extra 5 million. And there's Halloween coming up. That's why I'm padding that extra 5 million.
Okay. But I'm counting on the hate as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not sure how much hate there still is for the original film since all these years have passed.
Okay. All right. I think we'll find out this weekend. And finally, Snowden.
Speaking of love
Oliver
hate.
Stone movie. Yeah, Oliver Stone movie stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Shailene Woodley. Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays Edward Snowden, the defense contractor who revealed to the world that the U.S. is spying on their own people and other stuff. Created this apparatus to collect information from everybody, pretty much. And as you said before, before we did the podcast, seems like it's one of the perfect movie for Oliver Stone to direct.
Right. The reviews so far aren't that great. 17 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, only 41%. So it's another one of these movies based on a current event. But unlike Sully, this is a more controversial figure. Like Sully, everyone can get behind Sully because he's a hero. He saved all these people. Snowden's more of a controversial figure. He released all these classified information. Some people thinks he's a traitor, and some people thinks, hey, he's a whistleblower. So probably doesn't have as wide of an appeal as Sully.
Yeah, and also I think that this movie might not be released that wide.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably maybe 800 theaters, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. Although it's interesting to see Nicolas Cage, in a film as a supporting character in a more prestigious film. Let's put it this way. Not his direct-to-video films.
Right, not his make money efforts.
Yeah, make money quick efforts. Like, I gotta pay the mortgage efforts.
Right. So, as another comparison, right, there was The Fifth Estate. Mm-hmm. That was released a couple of years ago about, who's that guy? Who did the WikiLeaks thing?
Yeah, let's look it up.
Julian Assange.
Yeah, Julian Assange.
Played by Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah, another controversial figure.
Yeah, and that movie opened to only about 1.6 million.
Wait, who directed that one? Was it a well-known director?
Yeah, Bill Condon.
Oh, yeah.
The Twilight movies.
Right. Yeah.
So I think those two are kind of similar, even although Snowden is it's more right now, I think, more well-known, more controversial. Mm-hmm. He's still in the news.
Yeah. And having Oliver Stone direct a controversial film, with conspiracy theories is his forte. But again, the subject matter is pretty controversial and probably not as mainstream. But it does have a good cast. But the reviews aren't good. So
right.
I'm thinking 5 million or less.
Okay.
Maybe 4 million.
4 million? Okay. So, Snowden, I think, I don't know how interested people are in his life or in the story as well. It seems like, in general, I think people are just going, meh, like the general audience.
Yeah.
This thing doesn't really affect them, especially the young people.
Mm-hmm.
About, US spying and everything, privacy, it's not a big issue, I think, with the young people. And I think where Snowden might be big might be with the people who are in tech. Right? Yeah,
people who are in tech or people who are, who read about current affairs, so they're probably an older age group, even though Joseph Gordon-Levitt is a pretty young actor. But I'm not sure if he can draw in that young audience that audience usually doesn't care about current events.
Right, and this is not a mainstream movie. It's not just current events. This is just not a mainstream movie for them.
Yeah, not as easy as a Sully.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with I'm with you. I'm gonna go with 5 million if it is released less than 800 theaters. Mm-hmm. If more, I might bump that up to 8 to 10.
Okay.
Because it is it will appeal to, I think, an older group, but again, those older group might not rush out to see Snowden.
Okay, so Bridget Jones, I'm 8, you're 10.
I'm 10, you 8. Yeah.
Okay, Blair Witch, I'm 15, you're 10. So we kind of switch there. And Snowden, we're about the same. I'm about 4 million, you're about 5 million.
Yep. Yeah, we're not that high on this week's movies, right? None of the movies I think will break 20. I think you think Sully will be number 1 again, I think.
Yeah. Great reviews, great word of mouth. Hey, that's how we felt about last weekend's movies. And
True. But we have I guess like data points from the previous movies, right?
Of these 3 films, which one of these do you think has the highest chance to break out?
Bridget Jones' Baby.
You think so? I'm going with Blair Witch.
You're going with Blair Witch? Yeah. I guess it seems so, because like our numbers are there. You're higher on Blair Witch than I am, and I'm higher on Bridget Jones' Baby than you are, even though not by much. But I think if there is a movie that will surprise us, it's probably Bridget Jones, I think, and you think it's Blair Witch.
Yeah. All right, we'll see.
All right, we made it through another podcast, the 100th one. I want to remind you. Okay, so we'll come back next week and see how we did with our projections.
All right, see you guys next week.